how do you, and when did you decide to incorporate food into your fiction? And we'll start with you, Andrea.
I don't know how much of a conscious choice it was. I think to me, food is just a really important part of world building, because not only are you thinking about like, well, what are they eating? Like, where are they getting their food? But also like, how are they eating it? Are they eating it together as a family? Or do they do like a formal dinner? Is somebody else cooking the food, or is it the family themselves that are cooking it? Does everybody pitch in? Like, those are the kind of things that I ask myself when I'm world building. Like, so in my Drowning Empire series, they're on a bunch of islands. So obviously, like, a lot of their food is coming from the ocean. They're eating a lot of seafood. So that was something that I had to take into consideration. And also just like regional differences too. Like, I think about that as well. Like, well, one island may specialize in this like spicy fish soup, and another one is like they got a lot more land and they like to make like goat curry, you know? So it's like, I think about that a lot. And then also I feel like it also brings like that sense of realism to the work. You're kind of delving into people's lives and showing a little bit about how people live day to day, because we all have to eat and we all have to eat regularly. So showing people at meals, I think, kind of gives you a little bit more of a sense of how these people live.
Yeah, and it also gives you a sense of character too. It's like how these people are interacting at the dinner table. It tells you a lot about their personality, maybe the flaws or the positive aspects of the relationship. And Krystle, what about you? How did you go about incorporating food into the world building and the characters and legacy of the Brightwash?
Yeah, I'm the same as Andrea, where I can't pinpoint a specific moment where it was a decision. It was just always part of figuring out who I was dealing with on a continent scale as well as on the individual character scale. And I ended up kind of these characters would kind of teach me a little bit about who they were by how they treated food, just because I get my characters, some of them are on the poor side of town and some of them are not. Some of them are really well off. So watching the less fortunate characters interact around food told me so much about them. And then the richer side of town being kind of dismissive about whether or not it's something that they care about. And it was just some of the characters didn't eat often enough for Angela. So I had to kind of spend some time thinking about how
I was worried about him. He did it right.
Yeah. I got in trouble. But just thinking about how their access to food would change them as people, where some of the characters grew up hungry and some of the characters very much did not. And so that became a big part of just building the individual people as well as the world at large. Of I have a really big continent that they're playing on, and what is grown, who has what kind of agriculture and who doesn't have enough agriculture. So that was always fun to play with, and it just kind of seeped in naturally while I was building the layers.
Cool. And Angela, how has that been for you in terms of incorporating it into your world building or your characters?
Well, kind of the same as Andrea and Krystle, actually, because I think when I started out writing, I would put some food in, but I think I've started incorporating more food as I've gone along. And just because it's just it's such a good way of showing the differences in cultures and groups, and it's just such a basic world building tool. I mean, you can do so much with it. Like, you just take bread and cheese. It's like, well, what kind of bread? I mean, there's so many different varieties of bread around the world that it seems like you can say a lot about that. Like, what are they making it with? And do they have enough? And what is the weather like here? And how's that affecting things? And I don't know. It just seems like I kind of start with food, and I think I do more research on food than I do with anything else, which is sort of says something about me. But it will also, and then from there it can spark so many ideas about plot and character. Just like the tavern trope. They walk into a tavern and what's going on there, but it's just a little bit. They can get to know the characters can get to know each other. I write my Italian Empire series is set and it's Renaissance inspired, and there's a lot of different cultures interacting there, and I thought I would probably be remiss not to write about food if I was writing about fake Italians. So they kind of, but it gives them the Italians are kind of the fake Italians. They kind of have a certain attitude toward their food and their regional dishes and stuff that also allows for some humor and some just getting to know people from the other characters. So it's fun. I like to write about food. It's fun. That's the other thing, I guess.
And you all brought up this aspect of food working itself into the, I guess, like the hierarchies and like the social, economic, and cultural structures of the worlds that you're creating. We'll jump to Andrea. I wanted to get you to elaborate a little bit on what you said earlier about, excuse me, the different islands and how they each have their own sort of unique dishes and different ingredients that are available to them. Can you build on that a little bit and kind of dig into how food acts as a window into other cultures?
Well, like, that's a difficult question. I think it's not just like, so it's not just like ingredients and what they have available to them, but also just how they would be serving and eating their food. So like in my second book, Lynn goes to some of the different islands and you get to see like they do eat their food a little bit differently. Like some of them do like a communal style where everybody is just eating from the same dishes, and some of them like everybody just gets their own plate. So she kind of has to decide like, oh, do I like bring a taste tester to this dinner or do I not? And like, what's appropriate? So I think like it kind of gives you a window into like what, like how things may have evolved on these different islands. Like in the one where they have like a communal dinner, like that may have been something that was done a long time ago before they had like a formal court, and they've just kind of carried it over into that. And they're just like different like expectations of how one carries themselves at dinner. Like there's a point where her captain of guard is with her and starts like tapping his staff because he's like nervous, and she's like, oh my God, that's incredibly rude. Like you never touch like a weapon at the dinner table. Like it's just like little things like that kind of tell you like this is like these are their like little customs and their cultures. And I feel like a lot of that is apparent in like the ritual of food and like how that's treated.